Podcasters in the entire state of Texas. That's right. You've been struggling through a grueling 30 days since you've last heard the sultry voice of one Grant Cole, or gazed upon the mysterious eyes of a certain Rick Collins, or wondered internally, why does Dustin Zerrer keep closing out each show with a random TV show wrap-up? And which one will he do today? Well, worry no longer, my friends. Another scintillating episode of Texas Rugby Monthly is upon us. Gentlemen, how you been, man?
Ooh, doing good. Just ready to get back to some rugby.
Hey, yeah, Dustin. It's been pretty. It's been pretty busy and down here in Houston, with everything else but rugby, but it's a lot of rugby stuff going on in the shadows. And guys, on this episode of Texas Rugby Monthly, we're going to catch up and cover what's going on with the MLR teams in Houston, Dallas, and Austin. Get you all caught up on the latest from the TRU, and we're going to welcome on the podcast one of the most accomplished young referees in the country.
Yes, sir.
Ooh,
looking forward to
that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I know. Great thing about this episode of the podcast is we've got a little bit of a sponsor that we get to give a shout out to. So,
wow.
The platform I know, right? We're moving up in the world. So the platform we're using today is called Welder. Welder is a great new platform. And, during a time of COVID, we are all reserved to video calls for, watching programming and people do interviews. So ever thought about creating your own content by recording a remote interview with someone interesting? Well, guess what? Zoom is not made for that, and the quality is shitty. With Welder, anyone can easily create valuable content by recording a remote interview in high quality. Go up to 4K and super crisp audio within your browser in just a few steps. Get the attention and credibility of all of your fans by giving Welder a go at getwelder.com. That's Welder, WELDER.com. The first 2 hours of recording are free and are waiting for you. Well, lads, are you ready? Are you
Wait a minute, so we're paying now for this hour?
I mean, if you guys want to pay me for the hour, you can. It was like, no, we are not paying for this hour.
Okay.
That's not
that's
good.
Enough. That's good.
But if anybody wants to pay us for this hour, we can also do that too.
Ooh, yes, please.
All right.
Call me.
What do you think? Yeah, right. Exactly. So we want to run around the horn. Well, you don't mind. I think I've let both of you kind of kick things off. I think I can kind of kick some stuff off about what's been going on in Austin in the past month.
Do you have stuff going on?
The answer is not a lot. We do have things going on. Social media has been active and doing, nice fun posts. Shout out to the lads in the marketing team over there for at least getting some content out there. Not a lot has been going on. So we got our three things. My top three things are Marcelo Torrealba on his selection to represent Chile for the national team. Down there in the South America, getting their nice kind of round robin tournament. I actually forget what it's called right off the top of my head.
And you can you can watch the matches on your cell phone on the app SAR. I think you have to look up South America Rugby, and then it'll have a download for the app there. Yep.
Everybody needs to remember their Espanol training. So second one, we did have a signing, so we'll get into that second. Robbie Coetzee from South Africa coming and joining the Gilgronis. And then finally, shameless plug for me and the other podcasts that I do, Austin Rugby Podcast, kicking off season Trace. That's for those in the Latin America region. Season 3 for the Austin Rugby Podcast. We're going off with a bang because I just finished a recording with Sam Harris and Mark Gerard, the new head coaches for Austin. And let me tell you, 2 hours of recording. Don't worry, not all of that will go to production, but 2 hours of talking about rugby with the new skippers. Pretty exciting. Those guys are pretty awesome. So Marcelo, I'm really excited about him. I think, Marcelo, we'll kick off my first one. He's been great. Now he slotted in not last year before, pretty seamlessly and played great 9 for us. He's young, he's quick, he's a good goal kicker. We didn't really have good goal kickers at the end of season 2 and beginning of season 3, and so until Kurt Morath and Will McGee came in, Marcelo was kicking all of our goals and does a heck of a job. But he's great around the scrum. He is a typical 9. And by that, I mean he's short and he will annoy the pants off of you if you're the opposition. Or
the referee.
He knows. Or the referee. Yeah, he's always in the referee's face. But I think for me, Marcelo, when he, at a quick tap, he is lightning quick. I mean, there's some of the tries that he's scored for Austin or set up for Austin is usually because Marcelo will quick tap and break away and like skirt in and out, because I think he's 5'6" on a good day. Maybe, I don't remember how tall he is. So really excited that Marcelo's getting a chance to play down there. Unfortunately, they lost their first game to the Argentine 15s, 25-24. So it's unfortunate. I believe this weekend they come up against Uruguay. So that'll be nice, playing with a former teammate, Rodrigo Silva, on there, on Uruguay's team. So it'll be good to see them. Second one, for me, Robbie Coetzee, really excited. This is high pedigree coming into play hooker. We did have, we have Brendan Rams playing hooker right now. My guess is Robbie will probably come in. They call him the smiling hooker or the happy hooker, I think is what his nickname was. He's always smiling or something like that. But he played with the Lions, played with Golden Lions, played with Super Rugby Lions 7 years. He's got a lot of experience in Super Rugby. I think he took a little bit of time off to kind of find himself, and he's come here to Austin, and really looking forward to seeing what he can bring to the organization as far as leadership goes. So now you've got Wapa, and you've got Mason Peterson, and you've got Rams, you've got Robbie Coetzee, and you've got Lerome White, as we're starting to fill out more of those players and adding more depth, which is pretty exciting as well. And then finally, the other thing was, because there's really been no other news. Maybe that's kind of the one thing that I'm sad about. Like we hear rumors of other people coming to the team and other things that we've mentioned, that we announced on the podcast last week. Bryce Campbell still officially unofficial coming to the team, or whatever way you want to call it. But unfortunately we haven't really announced anybody else, and I'm looking forward to it. Some of the names that have been swirling in the ether have been really promising. Man, I'm kind of stoked about some of these guys that are coming to play for us.
Do they come from a place down under?
I don't know. I can't confirm nor deny.
So you don't know if they're Vegemite eaters.
How do you feel about
do they
Vegemite?
like Fosters?
No, nobody likes Fosters.
Nobody likes Fosters.
It's a terrible beer. No, and if you claim that you like Fosters, then man,
you don't get talked to.
Talk to me about beer. No, you don't get talked to. So no, not all of them. I know actually there's 2 more Americans, a Canadian. They're a Canadian second row. Another, I think 2 Canadians, 2 Americans. If you count Bryce Campbell. some of it has been, if people are on social media, it's not that hard to find some of these guys. And so, it's pretty, and then rumor has it that there is a championship winning 8 that is coming to the team now. I know.
Wow.
I know. That's a pretty big one. So that'll be very fascinating. People are joking, and of course, when is the championship this year? So somebody who plays on a championship winning team from this year is coming to Austin. So
it's Artie Sevilla, isn't it? Artie Sevilla.
Pete Samu. ACT. That's what I said. If I'm going to guess one, I'm going to go ACT Brumbies, Pete Samu, given the fact that Mark Gerard used to play for the Brumbies, maybe convince who's currently playing for the Wallabies, right?
Yeah.
An active Wallaby coming to play for Austin. Hey,
well,
man,
I mean,
world. Yeah, no, it's good. One thing I will say about, players signing and players playing, I am the stuff, and we didn't really talk about it, and I'll sidebar real quick. The Bermuda stuff, the 10 series that's going on, that's getting hit by a giant hurricane right now, or whatever, tropical storm, whatever you want to call it.
Epsilon.
There are quite a few Austin and former Austin players playing in that tournament. They're like quite a few.
Well, that's the shade, right? Influence.
I don't know. Well, they're playing not just Ohio. Zinzan is playing with London Royals. You've got some other guys that are playing down there too. The former Austin player, I don't think he's re-signed, but maybe a pickup for you guys in Dallas, since I believe he lives up there. But the Fijian Godzilla, Michele Nairamatanga.
Mickey.
He's
I've
playing.
Not heard that yet.
Well, I don't know if he is playing up with you guys, but for a second row, I mean, you've seen him play for us. He's a monster. He can drop some weight recently, so it could be promising for anybody that picks up that guy. He's a solid player. But again, a lot of guys playing. I think Grant may be on mute. I saw you talking.
I said, but Mickey's hasn't dropped any age.
Oh, no, well, that's not a hard thing to drop, unfortunately.
He hides his age well. But no, I mean, it's, so looking forward to that. Hopefully Bermuda 10s kicks off. And then finally, the third one for me, and there'll be more coming out here in the next couple of days from what I've done. I've had a great conversation with Sam Harris and Mark Gerard. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify or on Amazon Podcasts, which we're on now, by the way, gentlemen, in case you didn't know that. And
big time.
I know we're everywhere, only because this podcast piggybacks onto the Austin Rugby Podcast channel, because no one's paying us to do this.
It's kind of like the way I like to visit Austin. I don't want to live there, but I don't mind visiting.
I don't mind visiting. But yeah,
Dang.
it's been a good.
Everybody hates the Mopac.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Don't get me started on that one. But yeah, it's it's going to be on the podcast, so they'll probably run sequentially. You'll get either this one first and the Austin Rugby Podcast second, or you'll get this one second and the Austin Rugby Podcast first. So if you're listening to both, go back and listen to it. It's a great interview. We talked a lot about just them coming into the team, where they're from, a lot of experience, how they know each other. Sam Harris, probably one of the top up and coming coaches around. Like, he did really well with Honda Heat. He's coached the Warringah Rats, and did some great stuff there. We now have 3 Warringah Rat coaches in the MLR, in case you didn't know that. If you go all the way out to the LA Giltinis as well. And that's the last we'll talk about teams outside the state of Texas. But other than that, they're looking to play a really good style of rugby. They want to play open, but they want to play controlled. Sam, with his kind of rugby league background, really wants to focus on defense. We gave up a lot of points in the past couple of seasons, and we tend to give up points early, a lot of points early. And we're always kind of fighting back, especially, like you think like last year against Houston, gave up a ton of points early and had to fight back. And eventually won, but we had to do that. I had to throw that one in there too. Sorry, Grant.
Hey,
it
is what it is.
I can get him, man. It was the first win in 16, 17 matches. I don't know, too many matches. But the guys, they're really looking forward to building something similar to what you guys have started at Rugby HTX in Houston, and that was great to hear. They're already talking with Tane and talking with Adam with the Huns and the Blacks down here about getting things organized. They want to be out at the matches and watch the local teams, and so that's one of the things I think Brent Simmons and Andrew Saniola did last year. That when I was kind of helping out with the team along with Todd Clever and Paul Santinelli, that was kind of the goal. It's like, hey, let's get out with the local clubs. Let's be involved. That's what it's all about. And it's a big thing, right? That's how we grow the game. And that's how we build these, academies, and we build these, centers of excellence, if you will. And so talking with them, that's kind of been a big thing for us, to want to know as fans. And the answer was, yes, we're working on it, and it will be headed up by Mark Gerard. So you're getting, a multi-time, Wallaby 797 is going to be heading up a center, the center of excellence, academy, whatever you want to call it here, along with Mason Herring, who, again, Mason, if you're around Texas Rugby, Mason, he's a great dude, and just wants to help promote rugby as much as possible, from the coaching side. So that's all for the stuff in Austin. Other than that, we haven't had much. They wouldn't confirm or deny.
You're gonna miss Brent Simmons, man.
Have been trying to confirm or deny. Man, I will miss Brent. Brent was great. He's a stellar dude, and always treated me with kindness and treat everybody with kindness. Mick Byrne, Mick was great. He came on the podcast last year, so we'll miss them for sure. But I do think that Sam and Mark have the approach that is going to continue kind of that same approach that Andrew and Brent had, and continue saying, it's all about family. We're talking about, once they get here, going out for barbecue and, wives meeting up and things like that, saying they commented on my age, thinking that I was much younger than I was, when in fact Mark and I are the same age. So that was kind of nice. But other than that, that's all the things in Austin.
Well, so in Houston, just before I go into Houston, tell you, one of the great things I got to do last year was sit next to Brent Simmons during the Sabercats Raptors match. He came up and sat next to me. He and I can't remember the guy's name that was the assistant coach and the video analyst that y'all had, but he came up, sat to me, and we got to talk that whole game about rugby. He's I love talking to guys like that and getting a new look at what they see on the field. So that's why I say Brent's going to be missed.
He had so much experience. Yeah, so much experience coaching and building up young players, building them into the the academy down there in Auckland. I mean, and that is, that's great, and that's kind of what we need, more people like that in the U.S. Coaching these club level teams and college level teams, more people like Brent that it can, build up the kids when they're younger. And that's, I think, will be his again, rugby knowledge. He's been doing it for a long time. So it's through the roof. The same with Mick Byrne. So wish them best. Again, I don't know where they'll go next. Same with like Andrew Saniola. Like, I know he's actually playing for the Asia Pacific Dragons. So good luck to Andrew playing over there in Bermuda. But yeah. Okay, now on to Mr. Cole.
So my three things.
The sultry voice.
My three things. I'm going to talk about some ground that's been broken at Aviva Rugby Complex. I'm going to talk about Kat's signings, re-signings, and some notable players on the Rugby HTX roster. And then I'm going to talk about something that the Arrows Rugby Club here in Houston is doing that I think is pretty special when it comes to growing rugby. So first off, ground has been broken north of the training field 1 at Aviva Rugby Complex. So if you look at it from Bing Maps, don't look at it on Google Maps because they haven't updated it. But if you look at it on Bing Maps, you'll see the updated training field number 1's the one in the middle, and just north of that, they've broken ground for a weight room at the Aviva Rugby Complex. And additionally, it looks to be I'd say about a 5,000 square foot building, maybe a little bit bigger. And then the training fields, it's supposed to be 2 stories tall, and it'll have offices. They'll be moving their offices from down in the Galleria area to there eventually. So they say it's going to take about 2, maybe 3 months to build. So it should be ready sometime in February. Additionally, they've finished the fence around the whole complex, so the training fields are now completely fenced in at the stadium, as well as the stadium with the same 8-foot fence. It looks really nice out there right now.
Nice.
So yeah, we're kind of excited about that. I know that the Rugby HTX players see it and they're excited. I mean, they get excited just being able to practice in the stadium, so that's a big deal to them. So. Re-signings for the Cats over the last month: Val Lilo, Diego Fortuny, and Nicholas Silveria. All 3 props, they've been re-signed, and then Zach Godfrey, the little ginger wing from Britain, has been re-signed. We call him the Ginge. So
is that the official name? The ginger wing.
The ginger wing. Yes, yes. And good kid. He was selected to the US U20s last year, but didn't get to play due to COVID. But and he's still under 20, so he can still be selected for it this year. So we've got actually 3 players in the loop that can go to the U20s team, and we think all 3 of them will. So.
Man, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's something that we're really trying to focus on is getting the younger players. So that's the Cats re-signing. I mean, nothing really spectacular there because we kind of knew they were coming back. But, those 3 solid props. And with the other front row signings we've already had, that's going to give us a really solid returning front row coming back into this year. And that kind of continuity is important. Former MLR players that are on the Rugby HTX roster. So this is interesting. We have 12 former MLR players, people who have guys who have played in the MLR somewhere before. Even if it's only 1 game, they still have played in the
MLR. They have that cap.
Does that include preseason match?
With one of them, yes, but
I was going to say
with Max, with one of them, but with the rest of them, no. So Aaron Cummins from New England Free Jacks, it was a New England Free Jacks flanker. Alex McDonald was a prop at Rooney. Former Sabercats, Andres Diaz, CJ Burke, and Connor Mills, and Joe Kelly are on the Rugby HTX team. So they have that experience of being with the Sabercats already. So they bring a lot of the Sabercats experience to the team. John Ray, who was a utility back at New Orleans, gold. Max Wilson, he's one of our under 20s. He's a lock that has played with the Sabercats before. He played in this preseason game. I think he actually got on the bench for actual season match, but didn't get in the game. So Najee Bassoon, who has been contracted to Rooney and to Austin Elite. He's a wing, but we are actually trying to convert him to scrum half. And he's getting the mechanics down really well. We think that with his size, he'll actually transition better to scrum half and have a better opportunity. And we've got Trace Bolstead here who has 2 national championships with Duluth. So they've got a really good mentor when it comes to scrum half, teaching them. Trace is all about making sure the guys that we're transitioning into the scrum half role have all the tools they need to get there. And then about once a week, DeVette comes out and practices with us, and he works with those guys as well. So Patrick Donovan and Siala Maka, both of whom were at Glendale. Patrick's a prop hooker. If you don't, he went to LU Belleville, Lindenwood Belleville, was recruited by Pat Clifton there. And so his nickname's the Albino Rhino.
Nice.
We've got some great nicknames.
I love rugby nicknames.
and I don't know if you've ever seen Siala Maka play, but the guy is a hammer looking for a nail. I mean, that's about all there. That's about the only thing I could say. He is a hammer looking for a nail, and he plays center and wing. Will Crawford rounds out the bunch from NOLA Gold. He's a lock and a flanker, and we call him the Big Ginge. So
you have two. I thought you weren't supposed to have two gingers on a team at one time.
Yeah, if they're both playing at the same time, doesn't the world like invert? What happens?
Rugby HTX has 4 gingers. We
yeah.
Yeah. So Paul
no
and I have talked about this.
Towards Houston so often.
Yeah. Paul and I have talked about potentially playing off. We've talked about potentially playing all 4 of them at the same time, so we can suck the souls of all the opponents.
Yes.
As I say, I'm pretty sure you would go into like the Guinness Book of World Records for the most gingers playing on a team at one time.
There's got to be an Irish team somewhere that's set that record.
No, it's actually an English team. There's an English rugby team that puts together a ginger team for a touring side every year, and they do a little tour of England. I remember reading about that in Rugby Magazine back when. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so Arrows Rugby. Arrows Rugby is an interesting study. They're a D3.
The 1800s.
Arrows Rugby is a D3, D4 men's club that is down here in Houston. And they're basically, and this is my opinion, this is not theirs. This is how I describe them. The rugby team for the Knights of Columbus.
Okay, I don't know how we're going to go with that one, but I'm ready to hear more.
if you're tracking, anyway, and we'll probably try to have Blake Pellerin, their president, on sooner or later to talk about Arrows, because they're really an interesting rugby club to talk to and to talk about, even though they're D3, D4. So they have this thing called player scholarships, and they never turn anyone away because of financial hardship. So if somebody wants to play and they have some kind of financial hardship, which, in this time of COVID, we all kind of have some sort of financial hardship, right? They have a lot of well-heeled players that support membership in the club by ensuring that the dues are paid for those guys that want to play but are in need.
Nice.
They don't want money to be the reason that turns somebody away from rugby. So I thought that was very interesting. I know it's not MLR stuff, but when it comes to when you talk about growing rugby, that's one of those things that, wow, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty important, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that we always say what's our top 3 things. It doesn't. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't have to be MLR.
Yeah,
that's and if there's stuff like that that's going on in Texas right now, man, I'm all for promoting stuff like that.
And I've actually discussed when I was the VP of operations for the Quins for several years, a little while back. One of the discussions that we had was creating scholarships for players, and that would include a job opportunity with. Obviously an old boy of the club and having their dues paid via scholarship. So instead of just having chase around money, right, from individual people, you actually just build scholarships, and every year the old boys put money into the scholarship fund. Anyway,
nice.
Well, so that's my 3.
I'll go since.
I say it's up to Rick now.
Yeah. So I do have some pretty big news. I'm not gonna lie with the Dallas Jackals. So I think I can actually announce one of these players. Pretty sure, since
I want to go back. You were complaining last time. You had nothing. You were so upset that
I know.
And then all of a sudden, like the next day, same with Austin, just doom. It's like they just throw everything out at you.
So here come the Fijians. I'm not sure what this is all about, but we've signed 3 Fijians in the last 3 weeks.
Wow.
Tuidraki Samusamovodre, fly half, who's actually listed on the national team as one of 2 fly halves for the Fijian national team. So he looks like a very good player from video I've seen. and we needed a fly half. That was, I mean, right? We've been talking about how we've been loading up everywhere, especially front row, but where was the playmaker? And so now they've got a playmaker. Not only do they have a playmaker at fly half that they brought in 2 other Fijians at playmaker positions. John Vasurakuta, center wing. He says he's probably a 13, but he can play really anywhere in the back 3 as well. So wouldn't be surprised to see him at different positions depending on who else they bring in. And then Josateki Degai, a fullback, also Fijian. All 3 are young. Not surprising. Tuiraki is 22, Degai is 22, and John, I think, is 20 or 21. So 3 young Fijians. I don't know if we're going to be, Team Fiji East, if you're looking at the globe one way, or Team Fiji West, if you're looking at the globe from another direction. But just announcing all 3 in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. And as I've talked about before about the Jackals, super dynamic players. I think also surprisingly good defenders. So one of the things we haven't really seen from a lot of the players that they brought in was, really dynamic defensive players. A lot of it's just dynamic offensive play. All 3 of these players are very good defensive players and attack style defenders. They're going to rush up, they make hits, and they bring guys to the ground, and they get over the ball quickly, from what I've seen. Also, we brought in 2 Rooney front rowers. We brought in Mike Brown, hooker, and Will Burke, tight head prop. So I heard from somebody within the Rooney fanship that Will is not really as much a tight head prop as a hooker, but everything else I've heard is he will play tight head. And I don't know that he starts at tight head with Filiti in there, but everything I've watched of him when he's played, he's been as good in the scrums as whoever he's come up against, if not better. So there's depth there at the minimum. I think, he's a young guy. It's possible he ends up being the starter depending on, what they want to do with the front row. And then Mike Brown, a super dynamic open field hooker. He has a good line out. I think they're really disappointed, the fanship there in Rooney, that they didn't bring him back. Because he was such a good player and young player behind the Butcher, behind Fawcett. But I think he just couldn't get the minutes that they needed to get him. And it sounds like they're probably going to bring in somebody else. And so Dallas just got lucky that he was available. So a really good hooker. Now that does give us 3 hookers, which is an interesting issue. And I think we talked about
last time is your team full
this
of hookers.
really makes it sound like Chad is going to end up moving to the back row. And we've said it before. I think, maybe it's time for him to do that. That, especially with Malcolm, James Malcolm up there and Mike Brown, that, he moves to the back row. He can be, in a more dynamic position there. He's a great tackler. So I wouldn't be totally surprised to see that happen now. It seems kind of an obvious move for him. And then the third item, so I had the Fijians, the Roosters, the Rooney Roosters, and then the third big announcement was Christian Rodriguez coming in from Lindenwood. He was a sevens, I would say, more like a fly half center for them. But in 15s, he's a scrum half and incredibly dynamic player. A little bit undersized, but it just doesn't look like it when you watch him play on the field. No. Especially even at the USA U20s level. Yeah, I mean, he looks incredible.
Yeah, that team that Lindenwood had, that 7 team with Wes and who else did they have on there? Quite a few different players that were on that team. Like, they're solid team. And Christian,
half of that team was USA All-American, I think.
Dustin, isn't Christian out of Westlake High School? He is. So he's another Aaron Cahoon scrum half, which you see those things everywhere.
I think he is.
Really?
I actually don't remember where Christian's out of.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to remember. I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
Remember.
That also gives us 3 scrum halves. So,
so you're gonna hook the ball back, and you got 3 people to kick it to.
So, I think, as I mentioned kind of before, I thought, Christian Rodriguez probably doesn't come in and start. I mean, he's a dynamic guy to come off the bench. And you have Denison, I think, is probably the starter at this moment. And Junio, I think, maybe is a utility back if he doesn't spend another year with the Quins. So there's some interesting things there. Being able to use the Quins and the Reds as kind of development teams is going to help. But we haven't heard of any structure from the Jackals confirming that. So right now you're just looking at, they have 3 scrum halves. They need 3 scrum halves for depth, right? But you're not going to carry 3 scrum halves on your roster for a game. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Jackals do, because there's been no combines, there's been no practices. Players have been told to play where they can, which means that there will be sightings, and there have been sightings of Jackals playing with other clubs. Stop nodding, Grant. And
he didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I
saw him nodding.
Anybody doing?
So I think it's going to be really interesting. We're really shut down here because of COVID, and the Jackals are being very, very conservative about their approach to this season. But my feeling is by mid-November, they got to get going one way or another. They're going to have to start something.
I'd say most people probably won't be full-time training at least until January-ish.
But they've got to get players to the facility, out onto fields, for preseason stuff. So it's got to happen. I am curious as how it's going to happen, because right now there is no training field, right? I mean, in Austin, you have a multitude of training fields, right? In Houston, you've got your own facility. Right now with Globe Life Park, there is only the game field. There is no practice facility there. So where are they going to practice? To be determined.
That's a good question to have you come back with an answer next month.
There may be an answer next month. Maybe hinting at something.
Nice. Is that all you got? Is that everything going in
That's
Dallas?
all I got for MLR Dallas. With the Jackals.
Nice. So let's real quick touch.
Do we need to?
I mean, there's just a. Go for it.
Oh, I was going to say let's quickly move on to some club stuff, some TRU stuff, real quick.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's not a lot.
I heard you got
about,
some club news in Dallas.
Yeah, what's
we do. So I'll jump into it real quick. I know. So Dark is moving up to D2, D3 with Alliance moving down. Alliance accepted that, surprisingly. I know they've been really pushing hard to have 3 clubs, and apparently that hadn't quite worked out. They have a great coaching staff. I've met all their coaches. I don't doubt that they'll be back. So they're not going to stay down for long. But this is a great opportunity for Dark to move up and play a little bit higher level than they have in the past. And Gordon Hanlon is back in the saddle over there. So our past interviewee back in the saddle at Dark. Good to see him back involved. Mm-hmm.
So I can also say that
so the Reds. Yeah.
Gordon and I have scheduled a match between Rugby HTX and Dark for the 9th of January. It's tentative based on return to play protocols, but it would be the opening match at the Rugby Gardens in Wiley, Texas. So,
oh, very nice. Yeah, right. We've been actually, I could jump into SMU real quick since my comment would be that he has invited us to come out to do some training on tech and data analysis with him at the new facility, and we're excited to go do that. So cool. As of this year, right after, I would literally 2 days after our last show, I offered the head coaching position to Usani Iwa, and he is accepted. So he is the new men's head coach at SMU. I'm stepping back to just be director of rugby so I can focus on some bigger things. And he will have assistant coach Didi Massey, backs coach LaRon Hughes-Sims from the Reds. He will also have skills coach Nick Markowski, adjunct coach Matt Frings, who is also a coach with the Quins and is also a signed player for the Jackals. So he's keeping busy. We also have women's head coach Luisa Alexandria, and we have assistant coach Robin Bradley. So a mix of Quins and Reds players and coaches at SMU. That is a full staff. I've had other people asked to come on. I don't know why they want to coach at SMU, but I've had to pass them on to other coaches. But we're happy with the staff that we have right now. Also in Dallas, I did find out the coaching staffs for both of our D1 clubs, the Reds and the Quins. The Reds will have director of rugby Phil Coopins, head coach Stuart Morrison, Tashay Flowers as an assistant, and Mickey Patterson as an assistant. And of course, they have a bunch of other assistant coaches along with their women's team as well. The Quins have Danny Carlton coming back, and he will be the head coach this year after being the assistant coach last year under Elaine Vassy. Assistant coaches Jimmy Jewison, Michael Engelbrick, otherwise known as Molly, and Matt Frings as assistant coaches for the men's, and Ben Heenan will be taking over the women from myself, who helped finish out the season this last year for the Quins women. So that's what it's looking like for the two D1 clubs up here. Also for high school rugby, Shane Meek, I spoke to him briefly. He's the Allen High School head coach. He said it looks like they're going to be trying to play only local matches with a short playoff in the spring. They're still on hold until Texas goes to level 4. So y'all may be aware that that's kind of the situation probably for your high schools as well.
Yeah, I think
that's what I've got in the Dallas area.
And pretty much with that, like as of right now, we're still not playing. Nothing has changed in TRU as far as starting back up. I think there's been further explorations into options for starting back up, as in the last meeting notes that were released, but nothing is confirmed now. I did read that they were looking to compare like the NCAA football rapid testing. I was like, I find that very difficult, and we are not the NCAA. As much as we would love to be the NCAA, or at least SEC or Big 12 or whatever conference you want to, I would even choose like the Sun Belt Conference at this point. But it's one of those things where we're just not there yet. And I think it's, again, cases continue to go up again. So it is what it is. And we'll continue to go on. Any last things TRU related? If you watch or listen to this and you are a club member at any club around the great state of Texas, please reach out to one of us. And man, we'd love to say, hey, what's going on in your club if you're in El Paso or anything like that. And you play.
Yeah, we'll mention your club, mention you on our show. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We don't have any gear or swag to give you.
No, not like other shows that talk rugby in the U.S.
Nor does anybody want any gear or swag from us.
No. Game worn.
Done. So, all right.
Here we go. Well, I'll send off my hat. Next mail.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I'll drop this real quick of hats and giveaway gear. Stay tuned to the Austin Rugby podcast as we may have some old Austin Herd gear that we may raffle off for charity. So
nice.
Yeah, I know, right? Everybody loves that stuff. All right. Hey, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll have our wonderful, talented, one of the best refs in the country. Stay tuned.
Howdy, everybody. This is Grant Cole. I got Dustin Zerrer, Rick Collins here with me again, and we've joined by Kat Roche. She's our TRAA referee
in the USA.
And so we're really glad to have her on. And Kat, welcome aboard to the Texas Rugby Monthly.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Am I supposed to say more? I'm excited to be in this. No. It's my room. I mean, it's just your web space.
So one thing I want to know is we've had some issues having enough referees in the North in the past couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years. You've obviously moved up there to help address that as well as chase a job. What other things are going on to help change that dynamic up there?
So I do want to say referee shortage is an issue around the world. There's not enough referees. There's not enough people that want to referee. It is less of an issue in other countries where the population is closer together. So New Zealand, England, UK, there's a lot of people in one space. So you only have to go 30 minutes for a game. Obviously, in this country, it's harder because especially in Texas, you're 3 hours drive from the closest city. So it's not just like a Texas problem. It's not just a Dallas problem. It's a worldwide problem. It's a referee problem. One of the things that we're really trying to push is having the different leagues play on different days. So one of the things I have been trying to work with the youth about is like have youth games on Sundays, have high school games on Sundays, because if you have all of that on Sundays, all of your players, your club players on Saturday can then go ref a game on Sunday. One of the things we've had, and especially in the Dallas area, is every single game is 1 o'clock on a Saturday. And no matter how many player referees you get, they're playing at 1 o'clock on a Saturday, so you can't have them go ref a game. We've had people play and then ref the game afterward. We've had people drive from a 9:30 a.m. kickoff to go AR a 1 o'clock game to go ref a 3:30 p.m. game. And it's hard. Like it's a full Saturday. So we're trying to make it a bit more accessible so people can play and ref, they don't have to pick one or the other. Some of the little things we're doing, we have, if you are an active player and referee in the TRU and TRAA, you get 50% off your TRAA dues. For the entire season. We have a couple clubs who are also willing to sponsor their players full dues for the TRAA. So I know the Dallas Reds paid for 3 or 4 of their players' dues last year. So we got some things working.
I mean, it's good that things are working. My question is, why do you think, we know that there's a shortage, and this has been forever. I remember, 15, 20 years ago playing and nobody could go ref, and you had to find some random guy who just finished a match or decided not to play and would kind of fill in. What do you think people need to be doing, or why there's such a, the best word to describe is why there's such a drought of referees and people who don't want to just say, hey, I'm not going to go play anymore. I'm going to ref. What do you think needs to happen, and why do you think that isn't happening?
Well, I would say refereeing, one, is hard. It's not an easy job. It's not something.
It's not easy.
It's not something you can do and not be great at and be like, that's okay. I'm having a fun time. Because if you're not great at it, somebody's yelling at you and you're like, I'm not having a fun time. So
God, even if
it's hard.
People are still yelling at you.
I mean, exactly. So it's not easy. And that's something, I mean, rugby's not easy, but if you're not great at it and you mess up, you've got a whole team that's like, that's okay. We all mess up. You're doing great by being out here. And I've never heard that as a ref, but the second thing is, I think referees kind of goes with that. The people that want to be referees are pretty weird. We're weird people there, but so you're already looking at like a weird group of people that are like, yeah, that sounds like fun. And so not everyone's weird enough to ref.
My first referee kangaroo court, I had a glass of wine poured over the top of my head.
Whoa. Don't need to spill our secrets. What are you doing?
Spill. Oh, ha ha.
See what she did there? She came in. She's already throwing puns out like that. Yeah, all right.
I just think it's like we are an eclectic group. I mean, I was 20 years old refereeing, hanging out with 40-year-old men that were refereeing, and I was like, these are my best friends. And make as many jokes as you want. It's just friends, but like, it's a weird thing. It's not every 20-year-old's.
But that's I want to talk about that because I mean you're a female referee. You ref men's D1 in Texas. You ref everything in Texas. You're also MLR. I mean the question for me is how did you get to that point? What made you as a 20-year-old decide that you, Kat, wanted to become a rugby referee and stop playing rugby? Because I assume you played prior to.
Yeah. So I played for 6 years. I actually took the course because I thought it would make me a better player. Because I figured if I know the law, I'll probably be good at playing. So
that's where the weird starts right there.
That's
you thought that
theory I had.
Way off.
I was like, if I know what I'm doing, I mean, and it was great. I mean, I had fun at the course, and then I was like, awesome, I'll play. And this is local society. I was in North Carolina at the time, and they were like, nah, we scheduled you to a tournament. You should come. And it was a college men's tournament. And I just went out there and I was like, no idea what I'm doing. I called a knock on against the team that didn't have a ball. I mean, in my defense, they were both wearing the same color jerseys. So it like looked, but and I liked the challenge of it because I wasn't immediately good at it. And I like to learn. And then moving from that, I reffed the whole summer instead of playing sevens. I was like, I'll ref. And then I came back to my team, and an important thing to note is I'm super competitive, whether it be Scrabble or running or whatever it is. Eating, I eat really quickly because I want to beat the person next to me.
Oh man, this ought to be fun.
Again, we talk about these mental things.
Good luck beating me at an eating competition.
I mean, let's go. Let's go get some wings. I'm in.
If you think you got it, let's bring it on.
But I'm super competitive.
Into Texas Eating Monthly.
So, Kat,
I mean, were you a hot dog eating?
I had a quick question. Was there anybody who was really influential early on for you in, not only becoming a ref, but making that next step to, reffing MLR, biggest, highest level you could ref at? Was there somebody who really influenced you for that?
There's a lot of people. Amanda Cox was my referee coach for the first 2.5 years of my career. And she was the person that at that first tournament was like, you have a ton of potential. You can do a lot of really good things if you put the effort in. And I always remember that. I remember where we were sitting in the chairs beneath the tent, pitch was in front of me. And
if you've ever had that little woman with that purple hair pointing at you and telling you you've got it, it's like you've got it and you just don't know it, but you better believe her or else you're going to die.
Well, and so it's funny because then I remember the Stellenbosch scholarship that the USA put on. I remember seeing Amelia Luciano got it the first year and Emily Shea got it the year before, you know, when I was thinking about it. And I looked at them and I was like, if they can do it, I can do it, you know? And so I was I've been doing that my whole career. And right now it's really Amelia, who's a great friend of mine. Sorry, I just dropped a pen. She's a great friend of mine and she is just like right in front of me. And so I play this super aggressive game of like, I want to be better than her. I want her to be the best in the world. And then I want to be better than her. So she inspires the heck out of me. I mean, honestly, I just.
So that's good to hear. You know, Kara Wilson's a coach at Duke basketball, right? And she talks about the difference between working hard and competing. And I think that is something we can say here that maybe sets you apart because you're always competing, if not against yourself, against somebody else. And that's that's an interesting thing to talk about with referees is how do you get to that next level and what are you looking at to get there? And that competitive drive of yours probably has a lot to do with what makes you the level of referee you are with the attitude you have on the field.
Probably has something to do with it. I mean, I want to be the best and I'm willing to put in the effort because I really, really want to be the best.
I think that's really admirable. Like, I mean, obviously high competition, you know, you have a high competition rate, like I be the best at everything, eating, whatever, you know, but at rugby and being a ref in your field to be the best, you have to continue to work hard and, you know, you're getting rated and you're getting scored on how well you're doing on so many different levels. What was it like? I guess your first MLR match, like what was that like? And do you get rated for every match that you've done, even if you're the head ref or if you're an AR?
So I actually like jumped onto the MLR scene as a like total sideline. I was managing the subs and I was super excited to be there. And I mean, that was 3-4 years ago when it started. With my first year, I was like, yeah, I'm on the sideline. I'm here. I'm important. And then when I started ARing, I just remember because it was always in Austin. And there was always people out there and they were always yelling at me because they'd see me and they'd be like, oh, it's Kat. And I was like, keeping my cool. I'm focused. I am in the zone. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely made a ton of mistakes and there's nothing like getting called out for not running fast enough and missing a forward pass. And like you see yourself on the screen and you're just like lazy running, but you don't do that again. That's the thing. You'll always mess up once and that's fine, but don't do the same thing again. Yeah. I think first MLR-ish game I did in the middle was the only one was the preseason, the Austin Blacks against the newly named Gilgronis. So I was the first one to ref them as the Gilgronis and the first one to ref them in their new stadium, which was
here we come.
Wow, there you go.
Because they were rebranded like 2 weeks before.
You were the first ref to look at those jerseys and vomit.
No, they actually wore super cool herd jerseys.
Yeah.
They were wearing the herd jerseys. Okay.
No, it wasn't the herd jersey. It was the special edition military jersey that was red, black, and blue that we created. I say that we created because I was a part of that we created for what was eventually supposed to be the San Antonio match where they did have the military jerseys, but they were white, gray, and orange. So, but the herd jerseys, those military ones were
so cool. They were so cool.
You mentioned your first rugby gig being a college tournament in North Carolina. Where was that at in North Carolina?
Boone. It was Rucktoberfest, but it was when it was in the spring. It was Ruck April Fest.
That was my first rugby refereeing tournament.
Was it?
I was the coach of Appalachian State in 1994, 95. And it was 94, 95 year. And that was my first, the first tournaments, or the first time I ever refereed was at that. And then that following weekend, I was at Skillback doing a B-side match. So
interesting.
Yeah, Rucktoberfest was where most of the new referees got their footing. It was a fun one. I played in it too.
Yeah, played in that canyon there where the fields were.
Yeah, I always liked Field 4 because it was super narrow and we had a big forwards team, so
Yep.
we liked it. NC State.
NC State.
Yep. Wolfpack. Played UNC. You know Nia Tapper? Played against her for 3 years.
Wow, okay.
Just make sure they don't get the ball to her. That's all you have to do.
It's not good. Just as fast back then too, so.
Kat, I have one more question I think that I want to ask. I don't know if anybody else has another question, but I think what I'd like to know is, you can be seen, as a female reffing in MLR right now, as a female being in front of all these big burly men who are, super aggressive and testosterone running through their bodies. But what is it that you would like to say to the younger females? Because, I think having more female refs is important. For all across the board. You look at what's happening over in Australia in rugby union and rugby league that's happening where female refs are becoming, the head refs at the top level competition. What do you say to the younger female generation who's maybe, rugby player, but maybe wants to do something along the lines of becoming a ref? What would you want to say to them?
Do it. First of all, I mean, it's the most incredible experience I've ever had. I think it's taught me so much about self-confidence. And I mean, I'm a pretty confident person to start, but we actually talked about this on our webinar last night. Every time I go to a men's game, I walk up and I see their faces just say, oh, we have a girl reffing our game. And in that moment, I'm like, yeah, and in 10 minutes, you're going to be happy I'm here. So it's just like, you can do it even if you just think you can ref men's games. It's just go out there, be confident. First 10 minutes, prove that you belong out there, because you do just as much as they do. And make everyone know.
I have a quick question. Like, you're refereeing MLR and Division 1. Do you have another goal in the next couple of years? Maybe roughing, on 7 series or World Cup or just an international match?
Well, so it's hard. When I started, my first goal, first big dream, I want to ref at a Rugby World Cup. The only issue is I can only put so much in. I don't control my selections. So that's not my choice to ref at a World Cup. So I just have to be happy with whatever I get. And, I'm thrilled to be part of the MLR. I've been a part of a couple women's test matches. If that's all I get for whatever reason, I'm happy with that. But I mean, I would love to ref a Women's World Cup. It's been a dream of mine for 6 years. But
so it's time to begin the Kat Roche from the USA goes to the World Cup.
Hashtag.
That's a huge hashtag.
But you'll notice it. You'll see it and be like, I know what that is.
40 characters long.
You do it 3 times and then Instagram saves your hashtag. It's fine.
It's a campaign. We're ready to roll on it. So,
You can come up with a shorter hashtag as long.
We can, as long as your name's in it.
Roche USA 2025.
RW. Whatever.
I think we could get traction.
We'll get it. We'll work on it. We'll send it to those far and wide.
Dustin is in marketing, so he's the guy to set that up for you.
We'll work on it.
There you go.
Grant, you have any final questions for Kat?
Oh no, I mean she's been very forthcoming, and really love to have you on here, Kat, and glad to see you're moving on to bigger things, and glad to have you at the helm with the TRAA this year.
Thank you. I'm excited.
One of your members.
Yeah, I mean, hey, as soon as we get back to rugby, I'm gonna actually do stuff.
We didn't even mention that Kat is the new president of the TRAA, so we should have given her just a little bit of credit on that at the beginning too.
And I'm sure I'll be seeing you
I think Grant said something
soon, Kat.
Yeah, I'm here whenever you want.
Hey,
Touch every Sunday.
Listen, we can be glad that in Texas we do have high quality refs like Kat who are here and really trying to promote the refereeing side, not just the playing side, but the refereeing side. I think that's super important. So, Kat, we thank you for coming on. Grant, episode 3 kind of in the books here. This is the October episode. Any final thoughts from you?
So, final thoughts. We need to get out of this stage 3 because people are going stir crazy for some rugby. So it'd be interesting. But this weekend, plenty of rugby on the telly. So Barbarians versus Fiji, Ireland versus Italy, Scotland versus Georgia, and the Premiership final. So if you guys are not doing anything, that stuff's going to be on telly somewhere. So that's good stuff.
I believe NBC Sports Gold.
Yeah, Sports Go Rugby Pass. Yeah.
Yep.
So good stuff to be watching this weekend, and I think there is a England versus Japan match coming up shortly too.
That is true, and I'll be the outlier and say if you really want to watch it too, this weekend is the grand final in NRL.
Yes.
So there's at least something else going on. It should be a heck of a match, but if you don't watch rugby league, then doesn't matter to you. But it's entertaining.
NOLA Gold.
It's
some sort of rugby.
NOLA Gold also has a couple matches.
Tomorrow night.
And then Life, and then for again.
Some Facebook streams.
Fingers crossed. Maybe if you message them.
Kat, make it happen for us.
Yeah, I'll add it to my to-do list. I'll give them pickle juice in exchange.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, Rick, any last thoughts from you?
No, excited to watch some rugby this weekend. Finally, a nice full weekend of rugby, and then looking forward to January. We've got a full schedule for university. I know high school's ready. Just hope that things will calm down before the end of December.
Yep. Well, that's all we can do. For Grant Cole, actually, let's go back. For Kat Roche from the USA, thanks for coming on, Kat. Again, we appreciate it. Grant Cole in Houston, Rick Collins up in Dallas. I'm Dustin Zerrer in Austin saying, guess what, folks? That's all the Texas news, and we are out of here.